Welcome to More Patients, More Impact, More Income, the podcast for real holistic medical practitioners who want to grow their high-impact, high-income practice without selling out. And now, here's your host, Chris Axelrad.
So to me, the dividing line between the holistic medical practitioners, acupuncturists, naturopaths, chiros, whoever, who really succeed in an authentic way, build practices that have a high impact in their communities, and manage to make a really good living in the process. The thing that separates these people is a very simple principle that most people never fully understand. They never get it. And a lot of the reason for that is simply that the way people think of themselves is incorrect. And also the way that they understand what's important to their market is incorrect. Here's the thing. First of all, the way we go through school, I mean, it's important, right? It's important for us to get our 4 years or our 6 years or whatever the heck it is. It's important for us to get our training. It's important for us to get our certifications, take our exams, all that kind of stuff. There's no doubt that that's an absolutely necessary step. So what I'm about to tell you is not in any way a slight against the absolute, death march in some cases that education can be for those of us in this field, especially those of us who had other careers first and were not able to, just quit our jobs and we had to go to school while we were working. Even those of us who didn't, who ended up taking out massive student loans to be able to finish school. I mean, either way, it's a huge investment. It's a huge investment of time, huge investment of energy, huge investment of capital. So by no means am I going to be minimizing that. At the same time, what most people think of themselves as in our field is the label of their path, the label of their chosen discipline of study. I'm a naturopath. I'm an acupuncturist. I'm a blah, blah, blah. And yes, while that may be true, and yes, while those things are awesome, the market doesn't care. The market does not care. Here's the thing. The market for a high impact, high income healer does not care what you do. And it's not about, this path is better than that path. This path is more advanced than this path. This path has more history than this other path. This is the stuff that gets people distracted and gets people caught up in stuff that has nothing to do with growing a powerful, impactful healing practice that changes lives. And by the way, just grows mostly organically based on the fact that you're solving problems for people. And that's the key. What most practitioners fail to do, and they will fail to do this for their entire lives if they are not careful, is they fail to realize that what people want, what people focus on, what people think about has nothing to do with them, their discipline, the proof, the viability, the mainstream or not mainstreamness. They focus on one thing. Can you help me solve my problem? In other words, they care about themselves. Now, this is not a knock against human beings. The bottom line is this. If I can't walk or can barely walk because my knee hurts so bad, then of course I'm very concerned about that. It's not a selfish thing to be focusing on my own problem in that case. It's not a selfish thing to be focused on my own problem when I'm so depressed that I can barely get out of bed. It's not a selfish thing to be focusing on my own problem when my IBS is so severe that I can't even sit through a movie or a meeting at work, barely even want to go out of the house because I don't know if I'm suddenly going to have to go to the bathroom. This is actually a very important point to make because here's what most practitioners do. And if this is you, I want you to pay close attention because this needs to change really fast. Most practitioners go to school, they pick a path that they feel like, this is cool, this is something I agree with. And so then they go into the school and they finish school. They're really proud. It's like, I'm an acupuncturist. I'm a naturopath. I'm functional medicine. I'm this, I'm that. And you identify with that field. And then you want to go out and tell everybody this is what I do. I'm an acupuncturist. Oh, this is what I do. I'm a naturopath. And you identify as that. And you know what? Nobody gives a shit. I mean, there are some people who probably have certain beliefs, have certain opinions, and they're like, oh, I hate doctors. I'm going to go to a naturopath only. But you know what? Those people are making the same mistake that, the practitioner makes, in that we should always be focusing on the most appropriate solution for the problem first. The most appropriate solution for the problem depends upon the nature of the problem. When you market yourself as a service, as a naturopath, as an acupuncturist, as a chiropractor, as a holistic MD, as a blah, 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 this is what I do, you are not speaking to anybody. You are speaking to the air. You are speaking to people who might have a curiosity about the path that you do, but are probably not in pain. And then you wonder why nobody wants to come to your office. You wonder why it's so hard to get people to actually book. You're out there talking and someone tells you they have elbow pain and you tell them that you're an acupuncturist and that, oh, acupuncture is so great for pain. You should come see me. And most of the time they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. Because they don't want to be like an a-hole. They're like, they want to be nice. It's just a conversation. They don't want to say, nah, that's okay, whatever. And then when they don't show up or they don't call, the acupuncturist feels really bad, like, oh, maybe I should have done something different. Nobody really wants this. And it's like, no, you're talking to the wrong people, okay? Someone just has a little pain in their elbow. They can go to the drugstore and they can buy Advil or they can buy Aleve or whatever, okay? And you're competing against Aleve and Advil and over-the-counter medications if that's the only thing you see yourself as a solver of really low-level, really non-life-changing problems. I mean, if my elbow hurts a little bit, or my neck hurts a little bit, or I have a headache every once in a while, that's not a life-changing problem. That's like, well, I'll just go grab some Tylenol, or I'll just go take a nap, or something like that. We have to be positioning ourselves as solvers of serious problems. That's what needs to come first. When we don't do that, we can just write off our entire career as being where we just acted like and positioned ourselves as a commodity, as a nail salon, as a beauty salon, Which again, there's nothing wrong with nail salons and beauty salons, okay? But the beauty industry is not predicated upon a serious life-threatening problem, Not having your nails painted is it's inconvenient. Maybe it'll cost you getting a date or something, but it's not a life-altering thing. In this case, if we want to be world changers, if we want to be that high impact, and yes, high income, why? Because when you solve real problems for people, like problems like I just mentioned, where someone has IBS so bad they can barely leave their house, someone has, let's say, migraines on a daily basis, and the only thing that they're being offered is injections and drugs and pills and really, really strong painkillers. Somebody who's having trouble getting pregnant and is getting desperate. Somebody who has been severely depressed most of their life, is on medication and still not feeling better. When you offer yourself not as, hey, I'm a naturopath and by the way, yes, I do that. I help people with depression. No, let's flip that and let's say, I help people with depression. I am an expert in that. I'm an expert in solving depression. I'm an expert in solving irritable bowel syndrome. I'm an expert in solving fibromyalgia. Oh, and by the way, here's how I do it. Okay? That is the key. That is the epiphany and the 180 pivot to going from struggling and kind of with some half-assed success to becoming immensely, immensely successful in your marketplace. But there's an interesting other side to this, which is this. A lot of practitioners will also go study and do post-grad studies in like certain conditions. Let's go spend 3 weeks studying fibromyalgia. Let's go spend a month studying fibroids or something like that. And then what happens? They think, oh, I'm going to learn more about how to treat this. I'm going to become a better, more skilled practitioner at treating this condition. And then people are just going to want to come to me because I've got this certification, or I've got this special credential, or I've got this special knowledge. No. And again, people will do this and then they'll think they're going to get more patients, and then they don't get more patients and they wonder why. And it's because you still have no language, you still have no understanding, you still have no message, and you still have no process around talking to your market about that problem and about that pain and about the things that they want, the things that frustrate them, the things that they're terrified about, and the ways that they believe that they will never be able to heal themselves. You have no language and message around that. Yes, you now have a bunch of knowledge in your head about all these different protocols and maybe lab tests and whatever else around this thing, but you have not taken 1 minute to create a message that's going to resonate with the people who have that problem, to attract those people to you in large enough numbers to start building a reputation as an expert.
If you're ready to fill your practice and keep it full without the stress and overwhelm, then get instant access to your free autopilot patient attraction playbook now at www.highimpactpracticesystems.com/autopilot.
So there's really two main pillars to this thing, okay? One is you have to choose a real problem. Don't be scared to choose a real problem. Don't be scared to meet people one-on-one, face-to-face, people who are really, truly suffering. Like, we are not looking for the low-hanging fruit, like a little bit of neck pain, a stubbed toe or whatever. We're looking for people who have real problems, who are really looking for help. And that's where so many of the people in our field get themselves screwed up. They're afraid to actually offer to solve big problems. And some of that is by the school's faults, I think, because the schools really encourage and will really discourage a lot of times the students from being bold and going after big problems. But the other side of the coin is that there's a certain confidence factor there where people think, oh, my field, it's not that powerful. We can't really solve big problems, which is totally bogus. Okay, number one, if somebody has cancer, somebody has severe IBS, severe Crohn's disease, lupus, some type of infertility, some type of other thing that's very severe to them, that's a very life-threatening or very serious problem in their mind, okay, they're going to be under the care of a physician. 99% of the time, the care of the physician is going to be insufficient. And we have this amazing opportunity to meet those people who are suffering with these great problems and teach them through our holistic pathways ways to take care of themselves, ways to improve their own lives, ways to get their own shit together, basically, which is way more powerful than just running a bunch of tests and handing someone a pill. But you have to talk about the problem, because nobody cares that you do XYZ treatment. They care that you understand their problem and you actually have a message that conveys how you can solve that problem. And when you start to solve these problems on a regular basis and you start to build a reputation in your community, that's when you reach that level of high impact, high income. Because why? I know for our clinic, okay, on the Facebooks, there's a ton of local moms groups, okay, a ton. Like every neighborhood has a local moms group. Then you've got the moms who like to wear pink, and you've got the moms whose kids play soccer. And I mean, all these different groups, right? Well, they start to trust each other, and then they start asking each other, like, when they need help. They don't just put in there, hey, who knows a good acupuncturist? Like, they're not going to do that. what they do is they say, look, I have a problem. I need help. Who do y'all know that can help me with this problem? It's just like look, there's a leak in my roof. Like, who do I call? Like, I guarantee you those kinds of questions fly around all the time online. There's a leak in my roof. Who do I call? It's not, hey, who's a good roofer? I have a leak. I want to know who can fix leaks, not who can put shingles on my roof. Whatever. People intuitively understand that within any industry, electrician, roofer, doctor, lawyer, that if you just ask for a lawyer, I mean, the next question, especially smart people, they understand the next question is, well, what's your problem? Because different lawyers solve different problems, right? So it's the same thing with this. What's your problem? Lead with the problem. Because I'll tell you what, in our market, if anybody goes into any of these groups and posts, hey, I'm looking for somebody to help me. I'm having fertility problems. I've already been to the doctor and I need somebody who's going to be able to help me with natural stuff. There will be 10 comments and 8 of the 10 comments will be our clinic. And that's not by accident. That's because we have positioned ourselves as solvers of this problem for over 10 years. So the big mistake is to position yourself as a technician, as a commodity, as, a doctor, as someone with X letters and X certifications, because your market does not give a shit about that. They give a shit about one thing, their own pain and their own problem. Can you help me solve it? So learn the language and learn the message of how to speak to those people, and you will then become high impact and high income. And by the way, one more very, very important thing here, which is that there are very specific ways to learn the message of a particular problem and learn the message of a particular person with a particular problem. And you have to go through that process and take the time and sit down and think that through. If you want your marketing to be really, really powerful, it's something I call piercing the darkness, where your message is so focused and so powerful, like a laser beam speaking to that person. And trust me, when I say I'm speaking to that person, our message around fertility at any given time is going to resonate with like several thousand people within a 30-mile radius of all of our offices. Today, it's going to resonate with several thousand people. In 10 years, it's going to be several thousand people, but several thousand different people, obviously. But that message will always resonate. So you have to be willing to be specific. You have to be willing to get off of that train of like, oh, I want to help everybody. Yes, you're going to help people that don't have this problem. Because as you attract more and more people to your practice who do have this problem, and you help them, because that you just helped them with a serious problem in a way, you did change their life. Like if somebody has such severe IBS that they can barely leave the house, and then after working with you, they are no longer even concerned about that, and they're living a normal life. You've changed their life, and they know you changed their life. And they will always give you credit for that as being part of that process for them. And they will always refer to you, and they will refer all kinds of people to you, not just people with that same problem. And those people, when they come to you, you're already a legend in their mind. That's the kind of positioning you want to have. Not run of the mill, I'm a naturopath, I'm an acupuncturist. Acupuncture is so cool. Naturopathy is so cool. If that's your positioning, you should just quit now, honestly. There's ways to do this. But you've got to be willing to pick a problem and really take the time. Sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes it takes 2 hours. But you got to be willing to look at it and think through it and make a decision on how you're going to position yourself for that problem. And let me close with this, too. You need to be able to experiment with different problems. So just because you think that there's a problem out there that a lot of people want solved, the market may not actually agree with you. Yes, like for instance, fibromyalgia. That's a huge area that I see a lot of people wanting to train and wanting to learn and wanting to gain skill. But then when they try to go market into that area, nobody comes to their clinic. Nobody cares. Nobody actually shows up, or they have very little traction in their marketing. I know in the Houston market, it's a really, really tough market. It's a tough problem to attract patients on, because there's a psychology of fibromyalgia. There's just a built-in factor of people who, there's usually a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety associated with this problem. Usually they're low income, or they're not working. And in many cases, these patients, the fibromyalgia patients, which are sort of like lumped into this big category where no one really knows what to do with them anyway, a lot of them don't want to get better. So you offer them a solution, a holistic solution, where they're going to have to change their diet and change their lifestyle and all that. You're going up the steepest hill you could possibly go up in your marketing. And there's just no point in doing that if you want to grow. Again, spending a ton of time studying a particular problem, then going and figuring out if people want it, is also not the smartest thing to do. What you want to do is study and figure out what problems people are already paying to have solved. This is why fertility specialists in the acupuncture world have done so well. It's not because of the fact that honestly, and this is absolutely true, because acupuncture solves anything. Anybody with any condition who comes to you, if you're a really good acupuncturist, you're going to be able to help them a lot, including fertility patients. Acupuncture is not special to fertility. It doesn't have any kind of special power with fertility. The special power comes with the fact that those people are already spending shit tons of money trying to solve their problem, and they have a lot of commitment to solving their problem. And there are a lot of other problems out there. In fact, we're about to ramp up a pediatric practice within my practice right now. We're sitting down. We're in the process right now of sitting down and doing the exact same thing. We're going to look at what problems are people willing to pay us to solve for them. What problems are people already paying tons of money to have solved? I already know the answer to this question, and I already know the thing that we're going to actually pick. So we're going to go around and we're going to start working on that. But the thing is, like, we're going to work on other things too. And we're going to put, 2 or 3 messages out to the marketplace. And then we're going to see which one gets the most traction. And we're going to let the market tell us what the most valuable and most serious problem is. So let me just leave off this whole episode with one thing. I want you to stop thinking of yourself as a naturopath, as an acupuncturist, as a chiropractor, as a functional medicine MD, as a functional medicine nutritional consultant, whatever the heck your label is. Just forget that label. And I want you to think, I am a solver of problems. I need to find problems to solve. I offer to help people overcome serious problems in their life. And that's how I become high impact. And by being high impact, just like I said in the first episode, we have to have the patience. That means we have to find people with the problems. And we want to find people with real problems so that we can have a real impact. And from that comes the income. From that comes the money. Okay? And then you're not selling out. And then you're actually making a good living and getting to be that impactful, transformational presence that you went to school to become. Because if you're still listening to this, if you haven't just shut this down and stopped it and like deleted this podcast and you're here now, then that's who you are. You're someone who really wants to have a real impact on the lives of the people that you work with. All right. And this is the key. Start thinking about problems. All right. And we'll talk more about this sometime in a future episode. I'm thinking in the next episode, what we're going to get into is we'll get into what I call the lighthouse effect of focusing on a problem and what that does in terms of your marketing and how it helps you to really become more of an attractive force in your market versus having to go around and convince people and go out and talk to people and go out and like prove yourself. When you learn this lighthouse effect, you just pretty much get to do what you do what you love. You put, messages out into your marketplace that resonate, but you don't have to like run around chasing. You just sit there doing what you love to do, working in your clinic, and every single day, 5-10 people are reaching out trying to get onto your calendar. That's where you want to be. And I'm going to talk about that in the next episode.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.